As we celebrate 100 years of Collier County, Clerk Kinzel interviewed the two founders of Leadership Collier, which continues to create and foster leaders in our community. The mission of the Leadership Collier Foundation is to activate the potential of leaders to build a stronger Collier County.
We're here today to talk to Scott, Salley, and Mike McComas, two of the founders of Leadership Collier here in Collier County. And you two were the starting point of those programs, and they've grown so much in Collier County. And I just like to hear the stories and the information and what prompted you to do that.
Somebody who deserves to be sort of mentioned in this conversation was a gentleman named Al McLeod. Al was going to be the incoming president of the chamber when Scott and I were on the board. And he was president of Barnett Bank in Naples. And through the Barnett Bank system, he had known other bank presidents who had been through programs like this. And so we talked about it a little bit. Well, before he ever took office at the chamber, he got transferred to Tampa. And he got right into their leadership program in Leadership Tampa and called, I don't know, somewhere about halfway through the program. He said, "You remember that thing we used to talk about?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "You all need this in Naples." And we went to the chamber's program and asked for permission to do the research to see if this was something that the Naples Chamber ought to do. Presented it to the Chamber of Commerce, and the Chamber of Commerce supported us starting a program. I agreed to serve as the first chairman. Scott agreed to serve as the vice chairman. We recruited the first class, and we were very fortunate. We got the mayor of the city of Naples. We had the publisher of the newspaper. We had a county manager. So we had some very precisely, very important people. We had Barry Collier III was in the first class, and that had a lot to do with Park helping recruit. We give people liberal arts education on Collier County. You learn a little bit about everything here, and you meet a lot of very smart people who run those businesses who very frankly answer your questions.
I thought that was one of the biggest benefits, was the inside information. You might visit a business or the industry, or you might think you know something, but when we went around, I learned something at every business that I even thought I knew after being here about 16 some years. And I had never envisioned myself an elected official. You knew me when I worked for the sheriff, not in my spectrum, but those leadership classes, I think, built it and opened you up to possibilities around Collier County.
I often thought about that fact, that it was this community that allowed it to happen for me.
Naples being paradise, everybody contributes to the community. It doesn't matter if you're from Ohio or Michigan and visiting for 60 days. I just want to echo what Michael said. I don't know of any other place that has the community drive, the community adhesiveness that Naples had back then, and I'm sure it still has today.
Through Leadership Collier, through some of those programs, anybody that comes here can seem to develop, make those connections. That's so important, and what we tell the youth when we do the program is enjoy those connections, build those connections. You do things for other people and they do them for you. And I see that's the strength of these programs.
It is an investment for the next generation. And all these programs we're mentioning are generational now.
The simple fact that that's what we're dealing with is the generational part of it. There's a great deal of pride in Leadership Collier and then what Leadership Collier generated.
And with leadership, especially with youth, young men and women, is mentorship.
Scott went to Don Hunter and said, we need to do a ride-along program. You need to let these people do a ride-along program. Never been done before. And he got the approval from Don to do it, and all but one of our class members took advantage of it. And I mean, I'm talking about some people who probably, well, for sure they didn't like anything about guns. There was a whole lot that they had a preconceived notion about what went on in the law enforcement community that I think their eyes got opened a great deal. But I know that the relationship every class has with the members of the law enforcement agencies that are in the class changes their impression of them. And our structure is so uniquely different from where they came. You know, they don't understand the sheriff's responsibilities. They don't understand, that there are police departments, but the sheriff runs the only jail. Just stuff here that's so uniquely different from other places. And, that's a lot of what I think Leadership Collier informs people of. I don't know that teaching is the right word, but we find the right people to explain it to you.
We actually have now on our committees graduates from our prior classes, because it was 18 years ago. They've now gone to college. And one of the reasons that we wanted youth leadership, all of us heard from either our children or a few people's grandchildren, there's nothing to do in Collier County. Kids don't have anything to do, we don't, whatever. So we wanted to show them all the things that they could do and career opportunities, a lot of career, because we knew they were going to go to college because Florida Gulf Coast wasn't that prominent at the time. And we had Edison, now Southwest, but they thought we're just going to get out of Collier. And we wanted our families to come back. And so we took them around to these things. And so we're so proud that they have actually come back, become professionals. Now they go to the adult leadership, but they're on our committees to select the next group of youth that come into the program. That volunteer aspect, those programs that you guys created, so connect with them that they want to pass it on to the next kids, and they want their kids to come back and stay here. So they want to build that future of family, and to me, that's just a big benefit of this program.
It doesn't take much for it to happen. So,
well, I think it also is based on personalities. You had a dynamic, charismatic person that starts it, and it goes. But from day one, I think our intention was to be a group. It was not Michael's or Scott's or whatever. We all you contributed to it. Look what you did for it, and everybody has a piece of the pie. And I think that's the sustainability for it.
The one thing that Scott and I both committed to it, and it's turned out to be, I think, the real strength of the program. I was chairman in class 1. He was chairman in class 2, and I didn't have anything to do with what he did to class 2, except I did the law enforcement session. The third year, we had another chairman in the first full year, and neither one of us. And so every year we've trained a vice chair, and then the next year the program was theirs. And we didn't hang around so that it became Scott and my program for 30 years. That's not what it was about. It was about developing people who watched us run it for a year and then ran it themselves. And we're committed to making it better than the year that they were in the program. And that enthusiasm, I think, is its best hope for the future.
Well, so who all was in the first class?
Let me see if I can run it down for you. Rick Anderson was president of Barnett Bank of Naples at that point in time. Jim Bartlett, who was a local accountant. Ellen Jackson, who worked for Collier Enterprises. Baron Collier III. Lou Hegstead from Westinghouse, who was who was the chairman of the third year of the program. Dick Cavallero from the Naples Community Hospital. Obviously Joe Freeney from the Ritz-Carlton. Michael Watkins from the Naples Beach Hotel. Steve Wheeler from the Vanderbilt Inn Hotel at that point in time. Suki Honeycutt from Cuisine Management. Neil Dorrell, Ned Putzel. Boy, I'm touching. I'm going to forget somebody. It's really going to bother me, right? Dawn Nordgren from Marco Island. Bob Stockich from Marco Island. Karen Leach Johnson too. Franklin Ellis.
Yes.
Franklin Ellis was a local banker.
Neil Dorrell.
Phyllis Jones was in the first class.
Was in it.
I take a lot of pride in some of the people that have gone on and done. I mean, we've, you're an elected official, but I mean, I go back through them. I mean, and I'll start, from where we are today. Kathleen Pasadomo, who's president of the state senate. Rick Scott, who was a GNL graduate, who was United States, who was a governor and then now a United States senator. Garrett Richter, Dudley Goodlett. There's this whole long list of people who've served on city councils, on the county commission.
Mayors. Mayor Sori was in my class.
Yes, that was one of the things that we did do a good job of finding people and encouraging them to public service. And I think that has been valuable to the community.
And those are some things that, when I look back at our class, I just worked for the sheriff. I was finance director. Now I'm an elected official, but several people, John Sori was in my class, no idea to be elected official, ends up being the mayor of Naples. So between these classes, whether it gives you that bigger tie to the community that makes you want to stay involved with these things, it worked. It worked. We have youth leadership graduates that are school teachers, work at the hospital, work in government, employees here. So it really worked. We're keeping our youth. We're expanding the horizon, I think, for the middle levels. And
we did a good job with the old folks, but I don't think you five get enough credit for what you've done with the youth.
Thanks.
The program. No, I mean it sincerely.
Well, not me. Like I said, Donna McNiven was the heart and soul on a napkin that said, we need to take this down to our kids or they're all going to move away.
Barry Collier came when we gave Bobby Newsom the award for being Volunteer of the Year because, as I said, he's one of my all-time favorite people. And I said, however many years ago it was, 37 years ago when we got off the bus, Bobby Newsom and Everett Loken were the two people who were standing there to greet us when we went into the Grove for the first time. And for the ensuing 30-plus years, Bobby Newsom has met every Leadership Collier class, every Associate Leadership Collier class. I think he's the one that's always talked to the Youth Leadership Collier people when they come out. And it is those kind of relationships are they last a very long time. We're still close to the people who were in the inaugural class with us.
We have a lot of the history that we're looking for, but the history is being made every day, and you're making history. Everyone's making history, and I think the two questions you have to ask is, what class did you graduate from, whether or not it's Leadership Collier or the gang class, whatever. But second, probably just as important, what have you given back?
Well, and we tried to do that. We tried to get them into a project, whether it's to clean up Cambria Playground or, whether it's packing food or things in Immokalee or handing out food, or Farm City Barbecue, which is another big chamber thing and event, now benefiting youth leadership and some of the other organizations. We encourage them to serve and to try to get the paybacks of all of that. So it is, I think that's what will sustain the programs and hopefully Collier County.
When we first started working on this program, it was with the objective of making sure we had educated future leaders of this community. And I said, over the course of this year, I'm sure you've found some things that impressed you, some things that depressed you, some things that angered you. I said, we educated you to go out and start working on those things. It's a little bit striking that, all of a sudden I realized one day that we've been a third of the 100 years of Collier. We've been in existence for a third of the 100 years of Collier. Scott was the one that really had the background.
Well, I got to stop it. Mike was the legs of the program. He made it happen. So don't discount that. If it wasn't for Mike's vision and for his energy, Leadership Collier and the other programs would not be here. Ironically, of all the houses and places we lived, the first duplex is still standing on 5th Avenue and 3rd Street, that intersection there is kind of tucked away. But Baron Collier knew my father over in West Palm Beach, and he said, you know, there's a place on the West Coast that will be paradise. And he said, you need to make a move. And we packed up. I think he borrowed money at 36%. Anyway, I heard about the terms, and we came over on June 1st, 1953. Mosquito season was at its peak, and no air conditioning and stuff. So, and people ask, well, what was it like? And the environment here was the fishing, the hunting, the driving the Jeep on the beach, looking at sea turtles laying eggs. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And now I look back, I took it for granted. I thought everybody experiences this, and it doesn't work that way.
As I value so much that leadership program, they have meant so much. I need to get you back to see the youth leadership graduation, because it makes me cry every single time. That's how much impact. And when you see the teenagers come in on a Saturday and they're like, oh, got into program, you know, they have maybe a little disregard, and by the end they are the best thing I've ever done. And those things started with you. So see, that gives me chills, and don't make me cry, but thank you for coming, both of you.